Yo, what up, what's happening, people? Are you ready? Are you? Well, if you're looking to watch some kids get tuned up, you've come to the right mechanic shop. Because kids about to get tuned up. Just waiting on Mr. Zero. Stop in, and we will be off to the races. I do. Let's see if I can find. I think there was some good footage yesterday.
And there's a Farrah here. Thank you for playing with me.
So I was looking at Temtem. So I play some Jump Force. Why is my... It was fine while I was playing Overwatch. The footage looked fine. Yo, what's happening? I'm doing swell. Are you doing okay? Oh. Yeah, murder mode initiate. What a punk is beyond. What? I'm going through yesterday's footage, trying to find a clip. And when I played Overwatch, it's fine. When I was like watching videos on Steam, it was fine. Trying to look into the new game Temtem, see if I want to buy it. But the Apex footage is all like, well, it started when I was playing Jump Force. It's like all like choppy and pixelated, but like, it looks like it's just continued all the way through the Apex.
That's too bad, because it was some explosive action.
Yeah, like, what is going on? Why is this happening?
Yeah, it was a pretty shitty night anyway. It'd be kind of tough to suck a clip out of that. I don't know what you were, I was only seeing my own screen and my own failure.
That's like really terrible. Why is it doing that?
Introducing your champion.
The whole fucking stream's like that. How am I ever gonna be like some fancy ass streamer if my stream is always Garbo?
No kidding. Maybe Twitch was just having something screwy with its servers or something. I don't know.
Whoa, why is it making...
I guess
Okay, yeah, I was looking down on my phone and I look up and all of a sudden
yeah, it's too much
it's got me
vibration.
like going straight down.
Oh shit, I missed. Okay, at least it stopped vibrating permanently. There we go. Gun. All right.
So I forgot that this dude can like climb walls indefinitely or whatever.
Contact with hostile.
Oh, see, I didn't know it was unlimited. It says higher.
I'm
but
pretty sure it's unlimited. Like with the in
That's cool.
in the Halloween event, it's unlimited. So I think when you're a wraith, so I think that's
Watch out for the new kill.
because he's the guy who like hosted the Halloween event and like allowed you to be the wraith or the zombie like characters. So I think
Ooh.
that's what his abilities are based off of.
I didn't even realize that. He's basically the crypt keeper, but a
Yes.
robot.
Sniper ammo here.
Exactly.
Alternating.
Exactly. Do.
Well, check out the barn
All
real
right,
quick.
all right, all right, all right.
Got a hostile
Hemlock here.
Select fire.
Oh, select fire. Oh, ayo. I'm not
You find a prowler.
yet, but I'm gonna drop this Eva for this hemlock, and
Eva shotgun here. Shotgun bolt here.
I can switch. So I'll be carrying heavy, so I can switch later if I need to or want to. That select fire was in the barn, I guess, right?
Yeah, up top in the middle
Okay.
bin or what, or the middle car.
Okie dokie. Found some more heavy-o. And a heavy clip.
Train's coming. I don't know if it's coming to this station or if it's going the. I think it's going the other way. Never mind.
Okay. Oh, more heavy ammos. Oh, Prella.
Got an extended
What do I do?
sniper mag
Like
here.
run duel. Yeah.
Hemlock here.
I'm doing it. I'm going dual SMGs.
Oh shit! Chainsaw time.
Hope that select fire is still here. And it is. Oh. Shit is about to go down the basement. It's Friday the 13th. Guess who's playing Jason?
Where you want to go?
Wherever you want to go. You are the OG robot. I'm just a
Shit, I don't know what to
newcomer to the
do.
robots. Where's our buddy needs some health? Shit, I don't. I have 2 small syringes
I guess
and a big med kit, and I don't want to give him all of my small syringes.
Oh, the dude saying
Yeah,
he needed help.
he's hurt and he doesn't. But
Yeah, I'll give him a couple
I don't want to
syringes.
give him all my syringes or a med kit just to for that little bit. So
Yeah, let's go the way you're
okay,
going.
I was just coming for these bins.
If we can,
but-
if you don't care, well, we really don't even need to go to. Never mind. I started saying let's go to the drill site because there's a beacon, but really, we're not going to need the beacon. I don't think.
You planning on dying?
Oh shit! He
Okay.
hell no.
Extended heavy mag here.
Oh, hey, dude, drop behind us
Okay,
at the
I
barn.
just saw people go up there too. Why would you drop your shield, bro? Like, gotta wait for the fight to happen.
You just gave it away. Just gave us
and
away.
you're not gonna have your ability when you need it. Like,
I don't see.
I saw
where they
2 people
went.
go to that car up there.
We're not the first
I hear
ones up in here.
a probe. Oh, here they are. They're below the barn over here somewhere. Yeah, I'm gonna drop down and.
Oh, I have my ultimate. I'm
Start.
gonna set my ultimate right here.
Yo, I don't know where they're at.
Corrupt you much.
Oh, they just used an
is it?
EMP.
Oh, I guess you missed. Damn, I can't see this stupid fucking
Oh, they're chasing my
drone.
buddy, I think.
Oh my god. Shit!
Oh, I don't have fully auto set on. Why do I not have fully auto set on?
Oh no, she's one dying, dude. Up the stairs.
Oh, I just missed all those fucking shots.
Oh, there's 2 of them up here, bro. She's almost dead. She's healing. She's coming down the stairs. You can breathe on her.
I'm coming.
Well.
I'm coming. Not quite, but oh
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. She
yeah,
healed.
that's good.
Sorry, I was behind.
Yeah, she didn't have
in
a
my-
she didn't have a shield, but she had like 60 health or something. But I should have just held down the trigger till she died. I did like a burst because I figured like she.
Let's call that a warm-up
Let's
game.
do that.
When you were playing Nintendo as a kid, that was just practice when you die, you know.
Yeah, that one didn't count.
It's not your turn yet, bitch. That was practice.
Yeah. That's why I don't have friends. Because I didn't share and I called everybody bitch. You know what? I do remember that happening. I don't know if it was Twitch disconnecting or OBS disconnecting, but it kept like reconnecting, and I see there's 4 different streams that were started yesterday.
Huh.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So it
lot
just
of you.
kept disconnecting and reconnecting. So that's probably because the stream quality was so cheerable.
Yeesh, I wonder if we can make that party boat. Nah, let's just go train
This
on
might
it.
be a good place to land. Hold your breath. If you have a respiratory system,
I'm gonna go to the far side to that one.
this way.
Okay. I am coming with you, and I'm gonna fall down.
Oh, no gun in this car.
I'm gonna
Oh shit.
bullets and a sight and a grenade.
Oh, I just kicked her right off the rope.
Oh,
but I have no
Mozambique
guns
on fleek.
Trying to scramble for one.
Wonderful.
Oh
Up there
shit.
pushing our teammate.
I've got jack shit in the pit.
I don't know how I missed all those Mozambique shots. Mozambique is not accurate at distance. Oh, he's got a freaking All-Star, are you kidding me?
Got one of these fools. Oh, this other fool got me in the back until I turned around, and he got me in the front. Yeah, you apparently, or either you or a teammate did some damage to that guy, because I got a down with 60 damage to this one guy. Well, I said 60. You did 88. Where did I see 60? Oh, in my death recap. Okay. One of my friends on Facebook just posted, "Gotta love the smell of bacon cooking."
I mean, they're not wrong.
Yes, but it's kind of funny if you felt compelled to share that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that's basically what like Facebook has become. Or Twitter is also like a place just to dump your nonsense thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. I never, I've never even gotten Twitter except for very specific use cases, like say a company wants to, put out some up-to-date news about some product coming out or something like that, or maybe like progress reports on something, but like, man, I really don't give a fuck about your average dude's random thoughts,
It's a good place for
every once in a while.
Communication, I think. I don't really use it that often, but from what I gather, it's good for like community management, because you can talk directly to somebody. You can talk directly to a figure. You know what I mean? Like, so like it's not just like a comment on a post. You can either like tweet them directly that's privately, or you can tweet them and say something to them publicly. I mean, so this way they're more compelled to respond or whatever. You can start a dialogue, and you could talk right to Justin Timberlake if you wanted to, or whatever. And you have a good chance. You have a good chance of JT responding to you. You know what I mean? So.
Damn, I'm getting on Twitter tonight.
I say we land here.
I knew I'd get you with that.
It's funny. 11 or 12 years ago, when that Justin Timberlake, that "I'm Bringing Sexy Back" song came out, I thought that was a woman on that track.
There is a woman on that track.
I was like,
I think.
You mean
no,
JT?
I think.
Well, I mean, it's Justin saying "I'm bringing sexy back."
But I think Nelly Furtado is. Or maybe it's a different song that I'm thinking of.
I think so. On that one, I don't know if somebody else is on the track, but I know it's Justin saying "I'm bringing sexy back. You other fuckers don't know how to act," or whatever he said.
Right.
And I thought it was a woman, and I was like, "Hey, that woman's got a pretty nice voice." And then somebody's like, "No, that's Justin Timberlake," and I was like,
"Hey, that woman's got a pretty huge cock." No, stop shooting me! Oh my God, there's two people on me.
I'm coming, bro.
There's him, and then there's someone sniping me from up the hill.
Yep. Good shit. Boom in your face.
That guy ran away over there. So there's still a Birdman out there. Thank you.
We're all up and ready to deal with that shit. There's I threw, well, you must have got that 45 or whatever.
Well, drop a longbow for that shit though.
Oh yeah, I hear this fool. Here he comes. Broke his shield.
Came over top of the. Oh, not today, bruh.
Good shit. Hell no.
I need like real heals.
Yeah, I need some heals, my seals.
We gotta heal the seals.
Do you need heavy ammo on spare?
No, I'm running light and.
Well, there's some in this box, and I can spare a box.
Blue armor on me in this box.
Oh shit, taking it.
And box with that.
Shield cell here.
I'm not thanking you.
G7's light ammo here. 1 minute.
What kind? Oh, you need the
Yeah, I
heals.
need
You
like.
said.
Oh, there's a.
Oh, here's a there's a med kit on me.
There's a blue heavy clip inside.
Extended light mag here. Level 1. 45
Oh
seconds.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, med kit's gone now.
Oh shit. I didn't check those other levels.
Here. Level 2.
Don't go thinking I owe you anything.
I hear somebody.
I'm coming.
Oh look.
Don't know where our team is. Oh, I'm gonna execute her. Get my shield back.
Good shit.
Nice.
Recharging shields.
Oh, there's syringes in there. There's
We're not far from
a
the
big
ring.
shield battery in there. Get that.
Oh, I need ace.
Here, you need syringes.
Extended light mag here. Level 2.
I need
let's
a
get away from
syringe.
that dude, and there you go. Split them with you.
Some old sticky fingers over there.
Repairing.
You need a lot mag? There's
Nah, I
blue
got
up
a
here.
pipe. Oh, there's a sentinel.
Nice.
And I got 20
Sentinel over here.
sniper bullets.
Extended light mag here. Level 2.
I kind of want to try it.
Yeah, I assume it. I think it fires a little slower than the fucking longbow because it does more damage.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a go.
I don't know if I got a hit with the thing when I tried it, but it was totally new to me
It's
too.
only got
So
4 bullets in the without an extended mag. That kind of sucks.
I thought I saw an extended sniper mag somewhere down there, but I'm
Oh,
uncertain where.
I gave up the L star for it, so. Oh, there's somebody.
I
right in
think I
front of
heard
us.
somebody. Yep, somebody up here up the hill. Yep, yep. Oh, okay, okay. Well, we got
Got a
squads
62
then.
and broke their shield. Looked like a lifeline.
Watch out for these guys
Yeah,
from behind us up the
running.
hill.
Oh, there's a.
Where's this lifeline?
Spitfire there.
Oh shit, they're on the roof. I'm a dead man. God damn, I'm a moron. The fuck is wrong with me?
Oh, shit. Okay. Let me coming.
Kill leader appointed.
You are on my roof.
Charging on my
No.
shield. Kill leader.
Giving my shields a recharge.
Oh, he got you up. Okay, cool.
No, on this roof.
Okay. Let me,
Charging
I
shield.
don't know if you need heavy ammo. There's some heavy ammo in this building. I know you're in a fight, but I'm just.
Well, I'm gonna run
And
away.
there's a Spitfire
Okay.
in this building.
Okay. Yeah, if we.
I don't know where the door is. I jumped off the ledge.
All right, they're gonna.
Let's go this way.
Eva shotgun here. Spitfire here.
I guess they don't want none unless we're right up in their face where they can get an
Oh,
easy
here.
shot
Do you
on
need-
us.
Oh, that's not you. You're up top.
Hop up here.
All right, here. Do you need a standard stock? Blue.
Heavy ammo here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take that. thank you.
Yas, queen. Yas, queen. Oh, you need health too?
Don't go thinking I owe you
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Nope. Is it enough to?
I am repairing myself.
I have 2 more. I can spare
He's
some
healed.
if you need. If those 2 aren't enough.
No, we'll find some in a minute. Did that not heal me? That dude, I'm 5 health from healing.
I hear
so
a zip.
let's call that. We'll call that
Okay.
cool. Yeah, I think they are going up and down stairs in this fucking building that
Okay.
I came from.
Yep, they're on the roof.
Oh, there's people either below us. Okay, yeah, we can't fire back at them from where we're at.
Oh, that grenade's gonna hurt. Ah, they're good.
Hey, let's get the fuck out of here. I'll throw us a zippy line.
Alright,
Unless they come at us, then we'll fuck them up.
I'm just pinging for this guy to follow us.
Yeah.
Charging up.
Ready to fly on a zip line.
Yeah, just take that zip, if you
Yep.
will, and we'll get toward the ring. Some unopened bins over here.
Charging up my shields.
Oh, I didn't mean to pick up that light.
Standard stock syringe here. Light ammo here.
You don't want that syringo. I'll take the syringos.
Yeah, I was leaving it just in case that kid needed some, but we'll
Why can't I
find something
ping
in a
that?
minute. Yeah.
There we
I need
go.
an extended sniper mag.
Alright. Here we go.
One minute. The ring isn't far.
I thought I saw movement, but I guess it was just heat waves coming off of this lava fissure.
Oh, I haven't even been at this spot yet.
Yeah, it seems like I've been dying way too much. I haven't really got to explore the new areas yet.
Yeah, I haven't a lot. Well, yeah, not the new areas very much. A little bit in this big ass thing we're coming up on, but me and Grim won the other night when you got offline.
Of course you did.
Maybe at midnight-ish or so.
Guys,
It was hard. It was hard for me to
play
believe,
phenomenal when I'm not
but
there.
it was accomplished. Yeah.
That's how you guys are. Oh, mechanics off. Let's get our A game going.
yeah. Time to focus up.
I hear shots in the
Well, this place has been
distance
looted all to poopy.
our left, to the east, but they're in the
All right,
distance.
I'm with you.
Oh, someone's flying in. I
Okay.
didn't see them, but I heard them. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, I saw them there behind that rock. Two of them.
And I don't think they're selling cookies.
Reloading.
Got one.
Enemy taken down.
Dude up there. Oh God. He's got that double tap on the scout. I'm taking cover.
Ah, man.
I got some bad guys here. We're already in the lead.
Oh, Viper, you let us down with your 25 health.
Yeah, man. Where was your venom at there, buddy?
Yeah.
I guess he's saving it for the next game. I do this all the time. I get distracted and start looking at something else, and then I forget to like go in and ready up.
Oh, it's probably, well, I did the same thing.
I like Revenant's skins. I like them a lot. I might have to buy some.
I've only looked at one or two of them.
His legendaries are pretty crazy looking.
Oh shit.
Oh, he's gonna take your robot.
Oh, you motherfucker!
Alright, so you wanna be Revenant?
No. You be whoever you want to be, and I'll be somebody
Okay,
else.
sounds like a plan.
I don't really like him that much. I mean, I haven't really had much much chance to play him yet, but I don't know. I don't like... that totem is so fucking limited that I just, you know... I don't think his ult's that good. Like, I think Tristan had him last night, and like... No, I think it was Grim. It was the other night. And, like, he put the totem down, and he thought it was like a 30-second limit or something, but like I got the buff and it went away real quick, and I forgot he said something like, maybe it's a distance limit or something. I can't remember if it was Tristan or Grim, but maybe it is a distance limit. But if it is a distance limit, it was very close to the totem. Like, I couldn't believe it could possibly go away. I mean, like, you would have to put it, like, really close to the place you're about to fight. If it was indeed a distance limit. I don't know what happened for sure, though. Somebody might have destroyed it or something.
I'm kind of... I like it. I haven't really been able to, like, optimize it yet. Figure out the best way to go about it, but... Oh, man, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Shoot too early.
Tell me if you throw a totem down, and I'll try to, if it's convenient, I'll try to get the buff and maybe experiment with it a little.
Okay. Okie dokie. Oh, I see there's a vest over here for you.
Oh, good shit.
Found a body shield here. Level 1. Shotgun.
You don't need a sniper
No,
stock,
I
do
actually
you?
have one in case I might try the Sentinel again if I see it. Oh, L-Star? Yeah, I think I'll take that.
There's a new kid. Hemlock here.
My hypothesis is correct. I am unstoppable.
Oh, flatline over here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not
If
good.
you don't want it, I'll take it. I'm dropping a Havoc. Oh, do you have a light gun? I've got a purple light gun.
No, I wish I did. I don't even have any bullets for it. For a light gun.
I'm carrying it right now, so... here's an alternator, just to let you know.
Yeah, okay. I did see a light gun, but yeah, I don't have any bullets for it. I guess that's the light gun I saw.
Yeah, I
don't
got no
really
light.
know.
Did our teammate
Somebody
already
must have
go
been, because
here?
this has a that Hemlock has not a default skin, so somebody dropped it there.
Oh yeah, okay. I think it was our teammate. Shit, where do you want to go?
I don't care. Ooh, more heavy bullets. Whatever, I'm coming to you. We can go that direction.
Hemlock here. I've got sniper ammo here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, where you're heading seems fine to me.
Need more kills. What's over here?
Okay. Using grapple. Triple take here.
Go here.
Light ammo
Now.
here.
Bins by the cave are not loot had.
Extended
Oh,
light
sweet.
mag here. Level 1.
So, you know how the zipline sways when you're on it? And
Yeah.
it sways more if more people are on it, which I didn't know. But
Oh, I
it
didn't know
swayed
that.
so much that I actually
Package being delivered.
hit, I'm trying to pick this. I actually like hit something. I was zipping by. Like I hit like a wall, it made me fall off. One time.
Go this way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I was like, what? How can I hit that? Why would that be a thing? And I realized because like I was zipping and like a teammate was zipping and then like I don't know if there was a third, but it was just so crazy that like my feet wound up hitting something and caused.
Hey, do you need a watt stabilizer?
No,
I wanna hop up. Select fire. Found a
I need a stabilizer, a heavy clip, not a stabilizer, standard stock, a heavy clip. Wait, I don't need a standard stock. I don't know what I'm talking about. I need a bag.
level
There's
1.
something I also need.
Attention.
Oh, I got a level 1 bag. Ooh, and a level 2 bag. Look at that.
Yeah, it sucks when you can't find a bag.
Optics.
Noise.
Found a optics here. Close range.
Lucky me, I am an extended sniper mag here.
I
Level
could
3.
use that last game.
Attention.
Yeah. There's also a triple take in here.
Triple take here.
No kill leader. They're next on my list.
Extended light mag here. Level 3.
Nah, I'm gonna pass. I do like the All-Star. It's a gun that, like, whenever I would
Yeah, it's
get
pretty
to
good.
it, like, usually late game, it wasn't worth picking up because I always had, like, a kitted out gun and, like, I'd have to, like, then only have a certain amount of bullets, but, like, now it just runs on energy ammo. Like, I can just shoot this all day.
Hemlock here.
Yeah, that is an improvement for that gun for sure.
For us. Check your maps.
I think it was a Lifeline care package. I didn't see where it came in.
Where
is- Oh, it's on the other side of that building. It's over.
Yeah,
I
like,
think
Been
it's
there. Wonder if they're still around.
it's not on the map, so
yeah, you want to run for it? I saw the smoke after you said that.
Let's explore this way.
he wants us to go to that building.
No fool.
I guess and get high ground.
Okay, whatever.
Oh, they just shot. Oh no, it was our teammate that shot it down.
Oh yeah, dudes in this building.
Okay, I'm right here behind you.
Round 2. Beginning ring countdown.
Oh, here I'm gonna do my ult
We are inside the
before we
next
go
ring.
in.
A net positive result.
Okay. Alright. Buffed. Oh, it is a timer. Oh, very quick. It's very quick. I'm trying to get to them before the shit runs out. Where'd they freaking go? I think they went to the next
Yeah,
building.
this door's open.
I can't get to them
Down these steps.
before the buff runs out, but
Yeah, they're like gone.
oh well. Yeah, they did not want none.
Got an extended
Alright, how are you on heals and stuff? Do you have syringes and stuff?
I got 6 little cells
Alright,
and
here,
2
come
syringes.
take these syringes off me. I'm gonna drop these, those.
Thanks, bro.
I'm gonna free up a space to go.
I feel like I ought to. Well,
Something.
never mind. I started to say I feel like I ought to give the teammate one, but I really don't know how
fuck
he's doing.
him.
So he's probably fine.
He hasn't asked
Yeah.
about it. He hasn't.
Did they just? Yeah, that's right. Did they just drop another
That's what
care
it
package?
sounded like.
Extended heavy mag here. Level 2.
It's not on the map. I don't see any smoke.
That's mine.
So I guess that buff lasts as long as the totem lasts. I must have just like I don't know
Ooh.
why I thought it ran
Someone's
out so
shooting at
quick.
us.
I guess the totem either got destroyed. Okay. Oh yeah. I can't. I got no long range shit. You want to try to flank them here, or get them? You know, run through the city and get them from a better
Yeah.
angle.
Because I have a 3x sight, but I don't have. It's on a the L-Star, so it's not really a long range gun.
Might be something good this way.
Yeah, I got 1x shit.
And I haven't found a
Grappling.
You have
slug
another
front,
totem?
Not yet.
Syringe here.
Scanning for the next ring. Check your mini-map.
Well, you know our teammate's not coming
Oh,
with us.
select fire. Okay. So,
Oh, I thought this was the building.
oh,
Guess it's the
Do you
next.
need that heavy mag?
building.
okay.
I don't need that. No, I don't need it.
He pinged a heavy mag before, and I didn't realize that I had a heavy gun.
Yeah, I took it.
Attention. Delivering care package.
Okay, our teammate's with us now. Where'd these fuckers go?
I love loot.
Was it this building they were
I
in?
don't know.
Looks like some people have been there.
Well, I guess he says he saw people over here.
Alright. Oh,
Oh shit, no, you dumb fuck, it wasn't over here. Shit, thanks pal. Thanks for getting me
oh,
fucked up.
hit me with that ability bullshit.
Recharging shields.
I can't do anything. I can't. Maybe I thought I couldn't.
Can't use your
Yeah, I
abilities.
thought I couldn't pick up ammo. Maybe I'm full on ammo, so that's why.
Administering medical aid.
I was trying to reload and I couldn't reload because it's the All-Star, and that's not an option that you have with the All-Star.
Gas trap deployed. Independent variable added. Gas trap deployed.
Yeah, come get some, you fucking cowards. Tired of your shit sniping at us from a mile away. Instead of coming in like a man and banging.
Do some game bangers.
Bang, bang. Dude, these kids are sissies. Where are they firing
I'm
from?
trying to go for a flank.
Go here, now.
Oh,
No,
is it
that's
in
where
there?
I'm heading to try to go up and flank them.
Okay.
Oh, somebody dropped a
I'm going with
whole
you.
bunch of shit up here.
R99, light ammo here.
These kids, I don't know if I've ever fought kids that are this big of cowards, dude. Like, as soon as you move out of the building they're sniping at you from, they run. I mean, this is cowardly, and I don't condone it.
Nope. Me does not condones it.
Recharging shields.
Great. The ring is close. Less than a minute.
I guess we better push. Yeah.
Pushing these kids like I'm giving birth.
30 seconds to get inside that ring.
Ooh, purple stabilizer.
Oh, I don't need a stabilizer.
I
You
can't
mark
use
it.
it.
Line here.
Barrel stabilizer here. Level
Dude, I'll tell you what. I'm picking up this R99
Now you
now.
can use a barrel stabilizer.
Yeah.
I thought
Good
about
shit.
it. Just picking it up just so I could use it.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get Peacekeeper knockdowns, but
Oh, people are. Oh, let you go zip in. Okay.
Care package out there.
Okay. Okay. I see you. The 0 hour.
Might be something good this way.
The one and only.
ooh, what did he just mark?
Up on top of that rock.
Okay. Care package over here.
Over here.
Somebody's already looted it.
Oh. They want to be pricks.
I believe others have been here.
Let's explore this way.
Flying in.
I see a
They're going for that
Yep.
care package.
And a care package. And a drone from
Oh
behind us
yeah, I
to the
did see
left
that. I think that's a
somewhere.
different squad. Maybe not.
Yeah, yeah.
Drones down.
It's gotta be.
Target
Kids
spotted.
over here, maybe?
Enemy spotted.
I'm pushing the people he's shooting at.
Oh, our dude is kind of
right here, in front of
sniping
me.
at him.
I need to
Yeah,
fucking
me
see this guy. Alright, I'm down.
I got it.
He like blended in.
Oh shit, he's
Yeah,
got a...
Don't let him get
Hold
up. Yeah, boy. Right here.
Where you at?
I'm
Where
in
you at?
graves.
Okay.
You are fortunate we are on the same team. We've simply removed the kill leader from the equation.
You brought me back.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, I'm
Where's this
healing
shit
up.
going down? Over here,
Heal
dude.
up and I'll be right there.
Alright.
I'm gonna drop the
I'm
totem
I'm stealth mode.
as soon as I get to you.
Okay, I'm burning
Dropping a
one of
totem
these
here by the
fools.
respawn. If you wanna activate it.
Got one kid down.
Totem up. Totem up.
Got one kid down, another kid down.
Totem's behind you if you wanna activate it.
Oh shit,
It's over here.
too
Okay,
much chaos,
okay.
too much chaos.
It's over there in that corner. Oh, our teammate's down.
Shit. I'm coming, I'm coming. I'm with you.
Grenade, watch out.
Yeah, see the
Yeah,
other
he just
kid
ran
out
up
the
the
door there.
thing. Oh shit.
Executed, motherfucker. Oh, go uncharged gold body shield in here.
We're in the ring.
Healing my wounds.
Oh, good shit. Okay, we can get our friend up right here. I'll get him. I'll get him. Or I'll try it. Damn, there's still 2 other squads left. I hear people charging up close to me, bro. That wasn't you, I don't think. I'm sneaky snaking in this
Oh
corner
yeah, I
back
hear
here.
somebody zipping. Right there at that
Sneaky
box.
snake. Yeah.
He's down.
Last one.
Good shit. Good shit.
Level 3.
Administering medical
Oh shit, I got
There's a
no.
level 3 body shield over here.
Yeah, that's what I need. That's what I need because I got no batteries.
Actually, I need some of that.
Oh, there.
No, get,
Oops, I
get,
didn't
take
mean
them
to
all,
do
take
that.
them
Okay.
all.
I'm gonna keep this gold one.
Oh, okay.
No, I just need cells for my gold shield.
1 minute before the ring closes.
Oh goody, I got the quick charge shit.
Medkit.
Only one other
Med
squad.
kits, batteries.
Battery here.
Oh shit,
45
yeah.
seconds.
Shit, yeah.
Rings nearby.
Here, I also took this med kit.
Good deal.
Medkit here.
Oh, I got plenty of heals. Thank you.
I'll bring that far.
What's he marking?
Bring that far.
Okay,
friend.
okay. Yeah, let's follow him. Let's.
30 seconds.
Oh, why's he going this? Maybe this is the closest way.
I don't know.
I guess it is.
Recharging shields.
There's a trail of boxes everywhere we're going here.
It's heavy ammo.
10 seconds. Rings close.
Heavy ammo here.
Oh, we gotta book it. We gotta book it.
Medkit here.
Okay, I'm trying to give this med kit to him. And he keeps running away from me.
The ring's moving, friends.
Okay.
Goddamn. One kid there. One kid up here.
Down one.
Contact with target.
It's all you, bro. I'm trying to get myself up.
Oh no! Fuck! I fell off into the lava. Oh, I knocked somebody. Oh man, I don't have a gold shield, so I'm dead.
God.
I don't
Where
know.
they at?
I
Where they
fell
at?
off the cliff in the lava. It's all you, bro.
Hostile right here.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I can only get so hard.
You are
That's
the
what I'm
Apex
talking
champions.
about.
Oh, that was dope, man. Either me and you or me and the other kid were both getting ourselves up with gold shields just before you died. And like, they didn't notice I guess they thought we were just still up. And I had that 99 and wasted another, I don't know if I killed a kid that himself had a gold shield and then killed that last guy. Or what, but they fucking died.
Yeah.
One
They
of them was
definitely
healing
died.
up. And oh dude, that
Yeah,
man,
that was
fucking
a
awesome,
good
dude.
game. That was a good
Hell
ending.
yeah.
I was
I
so
gotta
sad
pee.
I
I'll
fell
be
in the
right back.
lava. So sad.
Oh, you
Yeah,
fell
I
in
fell
the
off
lava?
the cliff into the lava.
Oh, I thought you just got shot. Oh my god. Maybe they thought you just like jumped down or something. Oh man, that's awesome, man. That was a fucking awesome
Yeah.
victory. That's one of the most
Yeah, that
satisfying
was
victories
really
I've ever
good.
had in this game. I mean, you know, that was
Alright,
dope.
yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Oh, legendary! Look at that shit. A legendary banner frame? Really? Oh, really, bro? Really, bro? Really, bro? Alright, got an epic. Got an epic. What's the epic? A banner pose. An epic banner pose. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me here? With your freaking joke ass stuff? See if I can get a clip made. Yes.
Hey, are you here, Joe? Will you wait just a second before you're ready up?
Sure.
I just want to pour myself a drinky drink.
Fancy ass drink. Let's see. I need a little bit more light. I need like a desk lamp or something. Something that gives me light down, but not like on my face. How bad does that affect the... Kind of adds like a
Alright, I'm
weird
back,
glow
thank you.
that I'm not crazy about, but we're gonna have to make it work.
Just talking about a video
Yeah,
filter.
I'm trying to figure out a way to get a little bit of light on my desk, like on this book, so I can sketch, get some ideas down, but not. I don't want the light to shine on my face, or like cause like a glare in the camera. But there's really no way to get one and not the other. It's like love and marriage.
I'll tell you. Alright. I don't know if this will work or not, but in my room where I had to run a couple of bare light bulbs, I made a little frame out of like glued together popsicle sticks. I know that sounds dumb, but it doesn't look bad. It just looks like some kind of just a little wooden frame, and put a piece of, you know, like printer paper and glued it to the edges, glue or tape, whatever, and put it in front of the light, and it's kind of like a panel in a photo studio where it kind of diffuses it a little bit. I don't know if that would. I don't know how you would set it up so that was like over your sketchbook.
That's actually like a really good idea, because like I've been trying to figure out a lighting situation ever since I was even in the other room, and one of the reasons I like this room better is because the lighting is better. Because in the other room that I used to stream from, there was no overhead, there was no like ceiling light. It was just like a lamp. It was like a desk lamp that like I had clamped onto like the windowsill, and I just couldn't get a good angle on that, and it would always like shine too much on my face and whatever. But yeah, if, I don't want to spend like a bunch of money on like studio lights. So I saw a couple of videos, like some guy talked about like you can get like, which I did, got like the cheap, where
Somebody landed with us.
where it's just like a cone, like a metal cone, like a shop light basically. It's like a metal cone, you put a light bulb in, type of thing. I bought like a super cheap one for like $8 or something at Walmart or Home Depot, and put a light bulb in it, and it works well enough.
Found a body sheet
But
here. Level 1.
They're behind this building. Oh, there's some in this
yeah, I don't have a
building as
gun
well.
yet.
Someone took first blood from me.
I'll give you an
I'm
alternator.
gonna
Where
check this
you
building
at?
real quick. Oh, I hear somebody over here.
All right, I'm gonna
I
come
got-
with you because
I got
we don't
guns
need to
now.
get split up. Right.
I don't need that though.
You see a white armor in there or anything?
They're shooting
shit.
you. I'm coming.
God. I'm so mad at this game freezing. His shield's broken.
What, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Get him, kid. Get him. Get him, G
Oh
Brown.
my god, that
Brown, you
is
son of a bitch.
unbelievable bullshit.
Okay, so our teammate is literally skipping down the street. Oh, god damn it! Let's leave this match. This kid can kiss the crack of
I'm
my
gone.
ass.
It's okay, friend.
I can't. He was literally like looking. I don't know if he was looking at the building, but while all that was going on, I see him after I go down, and he's jumping up and down in the street doing nothing. Jumping up and down. What the
Yeah.
fuck? That's okay though. I'm still happy with that
Yeah.
victory earlier. That victory made me so happy. I had to laugh in a way reminiscent of the "never mess with a Sicilian when death is on the line" laugh.
I don't even know.
Except I didn't die of poison at the height of
I
the
don't even know
laugh.
what that is, but.
You never seen The Princess
Oh,
Bride?
yes. Okay. Okay, I'm with.
And the little guy, he's like, "Never mess with a Sicilian when death is on the line." And like all in the middle of his laugh, he dies from the poison.
Yeah.
And just like immediately stops laughing and kills over.
I don't do this for fame or glory. I do it for fun.
I know all the roads. They all lead to the same place.
Indeed we do, Wraith. Yeah, you know, my room is... I had to really finagle to get any kind of decent light in there. I had an overhead light. and I was like, it was loose or something. Something was screwed up about the light socket, and I was going to replace it. And I went to take it down, and the wiring was so brittle that it broke. And like, I couldn't pull more wire out of the ceiling and strip it or something. Like, it was just all fucked and brittle. So I just like, okay. So I got like a floor lamp and took off the little domes for each individual bulb and put in some of those little screw-in adapters where you can put 2 light bulbs in one socket. And I like daisy chained them together, so each socket has like 3 bulbs coming out of it or something. And that made a lot of light. And then I had another, I plugged it, got some of those, you can get these little plug-in sockets. I mean, it's like a light socket that plugs into a 2-prong socket, you know? And it's just an adapter. It's just a screw-in light socket with 2 prongs on one side, so it can plug in to a regular outlet and use that for the other shit. But yeah, it's difficult when you have a non-optimal lighting situation.
Especially like stream. Like, I need people to see my beautiful face.
That's right. And I feel like your face shot looked pretty good when I've seen the stream, you know, but I haven't scrutinized it like you have.
It's better in here than it was in the other room. And like, I usually do like the red light behind me, so there's some sort of contrast. I mean, slowly but surely I'm getting it, so it's
Sniper stock here.
not terrible.
Watch out for the new kill leader, friend.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna use yet.
Flatline.
Don't really have any bullets for anything.
I want that. Give it to me.
What
light and
guns do
heavy
you
at
have?
the moment, but I also have some.
Here's, I'll give you 2
no,
boxes of light.
There's a Havoc here. I'm good. I'll take that, and I will make this work with. Nah, shit.
Somebody getting brought back? I can't see the shit.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
What the hell, dude? I hear it. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, they're getting brought back over in this region area here. I don't see him. I'm not running over there. I'm just trying to scout it out.
Okay. Oh, there's something purple.
I don't know where they're at.
What is this? It's a purple sniper stock. Here we go. A bunch of ammo over here.
Oh, he's in a fight. He's in a fight down here to the north. I think I broke his shield. I got my shield broke for sure.
I'm coming as fast as I can.
All I've got's a Phoenix kit, but I gotta do it.
I'm coming to you because.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh my god! I pulled. Oh, it must have done that thing where it doesn't let you get your weapon out.
Oh, he's back here somewhere.
Yeah.
No, you fuck. Oh, there's a new squad up on the roof.
Keep it up. He didn't keep it up. Oh, that's 2 squads. Okay. You know, I wonder if Apex. I feel like I've healed before and I still have my gun out. Haven't you?
That's it's also happened to me where your gun doesn't come out afterwards.
Yeah, it does either
yeah,
way, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to. Yeah, it's
So
a glitch.
it's a glitch
Yeah.
when it doesn't. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't intentional that you have to bring your gun back out
no.
manually. Damn it, Apex. Fix your shit. That's been a bug for a long time, dude. Like, nobody's
sure they
reported
have.
that? Come on.
I'm sure they have. That'd be too big. Maybe not.
If y'all with me, I'm with you.
Yeah, probably too big.
Grapple, locked and loaded.
Shit, actually, this isn't the book I want to be practicing in. Oh well. Book was $5. I don't really care.
Yo, I want to send you something on Facebook Messenger after this game. This is pretty funny.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to send it to you now, and then you can look at it at your leisure. But I'm going to be like, after this game, I'm going to be like, yo, would you look at that picture?
Sounds like a plan.
Some of that Baby Yoda shit.
Oh, Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda. It's Baby Yoda. Yoda, Baby Yoda.
Oh, it's just me and you.
The Dream Team. Well, no.
Out of the blue.
Dream Team would have Grim on it. Oh,
flinging some poo. Yeah, 2/3 of the Dream Team.
I'm good.
Oh shit. I'm coming, brah.
Yeah, yeah, B.
I'll tear you
Oh,
up.
there's somebody else.
Tear you up too.
Get out of here, buddy. Yes, you knocked him.
What?
You knocked him as he was falling.
First blood on the enemy.
I'm out of ammo too. That was just in time.
Yeah, I don't have any ammo. Somebody's getting somebody up. I don't have a gun or anything. I gotta go to another box.
Oh, I stuck him with Dark Star.
Nice.
Oh, I downed you, bitch. I'm a fucking murderer. I'm a predator. Don't fuck with me. Oh, okay. Here's a lifeline fucking me up now. That's cool, though. I mean, I feel eminently satisfied from that performance. So, even though it didn't register a kill, I ran one off. I knocked one, and I knocked another with Dark Star. So, I'll take that shit.
Yeah, pick up that blue shield that's empty. Bitch! Oh,
oh no! Same shit happened to both of us. That was badass though. That was a good battle. I can't be complaining about that.
yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable, even though it's not going... It's not the best of times. It's still enjoyable. Which
No.
I'd rather...
I don't get many Arc
Yeah, I'd
Star
rather have
sticks.
fun and lose.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
than, I mean, it'd be a sucky game and win, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah. I was like stalking the kid with the Arc Star before I let it go just to get, like he didn't see me. I was like, yes, walk in a straight line for me. Thank you.
Let's see. Sticky. Breasty nesty. More. Oh, that's adorable. I should
I
draw
thought it was
some
pretty
Baby
cute.
Yoda. He's popular at the moment. Give me some
Yeah, yeah, it's a good subject.
Some Instagram notices.
Grapple, locked and loaded.
One slice stemmed stern, it all spills out.
I don't think there's been enough nude Baby Yoda art to date,
That's.
and I think there's a
I
market.
don't know. Like anything that has baby in the name, I don't feel comfortable drawing naked. You know what
Well,
I
that's
mean?
true.
So
That's
like,
true.
Enemy spotted.
Baby Yoda,
But babies are
Baby
often
Duckling.
naked.
Yeah, but you don't like make art of it and share it, 'cause then that's like.
Well, I didn't say anything about sexualizing it. I mean, if that's what you're thinking, you know, that's
Yeah,
you.
that's you. That's your problem. That's what you're making this be all weird about.
I'm just talking about tasteful nudes here. I mean, of alien races. I mean, the dude is actually like 50. They just call him Baby Yoda
Right.
in the series. So really, it's like mature subject matter, but it's adorable matures. I'm gonna just drop this. It's not going the direction I thought it was going to go in, and I'm dissatisfied with the whole bit.
Okay.
Oh god!
coming.
Oh god! Front of the ship! Front of the ship! I broke his shield.
Okay, let me
He's
grab
right
this
there.
shit. Let me grab
He's
this
pretty
shit.
hurt.
Coming.
He's in the dance room, but there's more than one
Okay.
guy now. There's probably a whole squad up here. I'm trying to get away. Oh, here's a guy. Here's a guy. Oh, good shit. Okay, two more. Our teammate is with you. He's going around the other side.
I think somebody's engaging them.
Yeah, oh, he fucked one of them up pretty bad. Yeah, he got... Oh, if she's not dead, she is literally a breath will kill her. Good shit.
Get down on the floor. Get down on the floor.
And when you get looted, you can get my banner and get me up on the ship.
Let's just yep. Yeah.
I wasn't rushing you, I was just
I
saying.
got you, bro. Oh, and teammates even getting you up.
Oh, he's already
Good
getting
teammate.
it.
Yeah.
You got my banner?
No,
You
he's
hit
not
the...
hitting it.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, he was
no,
hitting
he's
it.
not.
Okay. He just was facing
Oh, yeah,
the wrong
he did.
way.
He did. He turned away, and I was like, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, so
shit.
there's another kid on the boat, toward the front, to the left of the dance hall.
Break the shield.
Shit. I'm coming, bro. Got that kid on the
Nice.
left.
Yeah, they almost got me. I had to back off of that fight.
Dude, that's deja vu, bro. I was just thinking how I was in a similar battle on here, and then you said they almost got you. You had to back off of it, and felt like double deja vu. I don't know why. Doesn't
All of
really
the
matter, I don't
deja
guess, but-
vus.
Oh yeah.
Level 2 body shield they just pinged. You should go get that.
Oh. Thanks, bruh.
I'm dropping the scout for this havoc, I guess.
Extended light back here.
I'll give. Here's
I
a
just-
box of.
Okay, yeah, I just
light.
dropped whatever, 27 light ammo for them. Is there a good heavy gun somewhere?
Let's go this way.
Oops, I didn't mean to.
Light ammo here.
Yeah, I'll do that instead.
We're all outside the ring. Can't kill if you're already dead. Energy ammo here. Found a bot. Extended heavy mag here.
Alright, and I have a vault key also. I need to heal up though.
R301.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I can't find any heals, dude.
I got some small ones.
Oh, I've got one syringe.
Oh, here, I can drop some of these.
Well, I
Oh,
only,
they
need,
just-
I only need that syringe, but I do need shield cells. Party time.
I think teammates fighting somebody? I think I just heard teammates say they're fighting.
No, I guess he was just shooting something.
There's a purple.
Yeah,
I guess they picked it
you
up.
wanna,
Oh shit.
oh shit, enemies down below us, bro.
I'm not even healed up yet, bro.
On the new kill leader.
I don't even see where they're at. Maybe he was just marking.
Because he wanted us to pick up the case or something. There's a blue bag right here. Why did nobody pick that up?
Level 2.
Yeah, I've got a white
No,
one. Just go
I
ahead.
have one.
Well,
Alright, here.
I guess I'll come up and get it.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah, I'll
gonna
come up
figure
and
out
get
how I could drop it off, and that would be very. I'd have to empty my bag and then pick it.
Where? Oh, I see.
Oh, it's over here.
Where's it
It's
at?
like right where you are in that bin on the outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, bro. All right.
Let's holla off the bottom off.
You want to mark a vault?
Oh yeah, I forgot I have that. Closest is train yard.
Need more kills. What's over here?
Okay.
I'm gonna throw us a zippy to zip.
Got an extended sniper mag. Peacekeeper here.
Setting up a zipline.
Zipline here.
Which way you want to go, to the train yard or to
it-
this? Yeah, I guess that's
This way's probably safer, actually, going around,
Okay.
in
Okay.
my opinion.
Let's hunt
Yeah.
over here.
Train yard's a pretty hot spot.
I think you're right. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Care package just came in over there. I see the smoke. Oh, I see somebody right in front of us.
Spot. Keeping a close watch. Got a skin bag.
Oh
We
yeah.
got a skin bag up here. I'm dropping my thing. My ult, I just dropped back there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, look at this. There's a.
Well,
That's
somebody's
a
flying
teammate.
in.
Do you see
Oh,
this
that's our
like
buddy.
wall
That's our
here?
buddy.
I guess it's like.
Yeah. What is that?
Oh,
Okay. Now that made my fucking shit
Yeah.
go away. Oh, that's
I
a
got it
distance
back.
marker.
Oh no, wait, I didn't. It went away. It looked like I got my ult back, but no, I didn't. So yeah, if you go out of that, you.
So maybe that's the distance limit. So that's not too bad a distance limit. You could be one building away. And then there's also a
Yeah.
time limit. They severely neutered that, so it's not nearly as
Oh,
powerful
shit, they're
as I
here.
thought, but it can still be useful. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Behind you, behind you, behind
You
you.
got one down? I'm dead. There's two guys right here. Right here. If you got a grenade, you can fuck shit up.
They're getting somebody up.
Okay, our teammate's a
They're getting
puss.
their buddy up. They're getting their buddy up. They're getting their buddy up.
Our teammate is a moist vagina. God damn it, kid, throw a grenade or something.
You kidding me, Ajax? Ay, ay, ay.
Ajax is getting scoured. Yeah, that was a mediocre.
Yeah. That shit was worse than some mediocre.
Dude, he did more damage than both of us. That's unbelievable. Well, he did okay on the ship, I guess, but that last ship was. If he had been with us in that last fight, we would have had a good chance of winning. if he hadn't been back there trying to be fucking
Yeah.
Rambo. I downed a kid. There were 2 kids left, and I think you did some damage to, you know, one of them.
I don't know how much damage I did.
And,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
they
he was just
really
back
surprised
there.
me in the
Well, you know, who knows? Yeah, they surprised me too. I think when I downed the one kid, I think his buddy was with him and just wasn't ready or something. But yeah. Ajax needed to step his shit
Ajax
up.
was a punk ass bitch.
I'll return Ajax and pick up a can of Bona Me instead. Fucker.
Yeah, I would probably get that if I knew what Bona Mia was.
Because that's another scouring
Okay.
product.
Satisfying. I think when I hit somebody, did like almost 70 damage.
Famous for scratch-free performance on multiple surfaces.
Oh, I see.
Dude, I used to work. There was this, like, it was like a university loosely affiliated in some way with the Methodist Church. They used to be more strongly associated. But anyway, so, like, they had, like, a campus priest type dude.
Okay.
And he taught a couple of classes or whatever. So he did some speech one day at some, like, event. I can't even remember what it was. Like, there's a new president, or it was some employee appreciation shit or something. And, like, he was, like, talking about appreciation for the different departments. And he was talking about, like, the custodial staff. And he said, and the people that clean the surfaces. I was like, the people that clean the surfaces, what the fuck? How long did it take you to come up with that?
Is that all we are? Is just
were you
the
working
people
on that
who
all
clean
night?
your surfaces?
The surface cleaners.
You're going to bed, babe? Alright, good night. Love you too. I'll sleep in there with you, don't worry about it. Oh yeah, I think I put the
People that
pillows in
clean the
the
surfaces.
laundry area. Cause the one pillow was destroying, so I put the new pillow in there. I didn't want him to destroy it. Do you need some of this light ammo? I just stole all of it.
No, I've got only a heavy gun right now. Here's a Havoc down here where I'm standing if you want it.
Ooh, yeah, I guess so.
Dude is... Oh, that's you. Okay, cool.
Actually, I'm gonna drop this 301. You want this 301?
I'm gonna pick up this 99 over here.
Okay.
R301 here.
I often prefer the 301, but... Hell, it's a toss-up between those two. If I've already got a decent medium range gun, I'll pick the 99 a lot of times.
Yeah, 99s can be pretty good at medium range. I mean, I've seen it, and I've used it with pretty good accuracy. You have to
I
just,
agree.
like burst fire. Oh, actually, I'll switch to the 99.
That's right. I meant though, like if I have another gun that's good at medium range, I'll take.
Here.
There's 2 boxes of light up here. I'll take the 99 as a supplement to it. You know.
Okay.
I got plenty of light. I got 140
Yeah, no, I got
rounds.
200.
Go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay.
Did you get that barrel stabilizer? I didn't want to ping it. Never.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Teammate be like, what's this craziness going on over here?
Triple take here.
Because it's clearly what he'd say and how he would say it.
Yeah. He'll ping it from 1,000 feet away, and then it'll be like, "Wait, why'd you take that from me? I pinged it. I'm a part of this team."
That's what you think, bro.
Yeah.
Drop that for the hammerlock. Ooh, blue vests.
Oh yeah. Oh, good shit. Oh, enemies.
Okay,
Let's,
okay. Yes,
you want to go help this
yes,
fool?
yes,
He's way
I'm
far
coming.
away. Like a
Suck that ass
suckamajunka.
majucka. That's got to be a hashtag that I start, suckamajucka.
Yeah. I think it's got potential to spread. Oh, okay. He wasn't like kamikazing him. He was just seeing him apparently.
Yeah, it's a funny phrase.
Oh. It is. It's good stuff. Here's a box.
I think it could catch on.
And another stabilizer.
Oh yeah, I can put that on my Johnny McJohnerson.
Did our dude stay in the building? Where'd our dude
He
go?
ran
Oh,
like
he's
a
in that
little-
building now. He's going from
Oh, there's a
building to
flatline in
building,
here. You
Joe.
want the flatline? You want the flatline?
Like a madman. I'm gonna stick with the hemlock this time. Thank you, though. Hemlock 99. I do love the flatline, though. It's an excellent weapon.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the hemlock too. I'm gonna be like you.
We're all outside the ring. Can't kill if you're already dead.
Oh, we both got. Oh, what's your
99,
other
bro.
guy? Oh, hell yeah,
We're
bro.
running the
Double death dealing
dick holes.
ding dongs. Dick holes. Indeed.
Optics here. Close range.
Oh, blue helmet up here. Nobody needs it.
Energy ammo.
I got one.
Care package being delivered.
Care package coming down.
Shit, where's that?
Dude, every time we go to a building, this kid runs
Yeah.
to another one.
Yeah, we're just following him and like getting his scraps. Like, fudge this fudge.
Yeah, the fuck.
Pack and fudger. Not that there's anything wrong with pack and fudge.
Indeed. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But I'm not really a fan.
It's just not for us.
Yeah.
It's just not for me
I
personally.
mean, you feel free to include me in that. You started to, and then you stopped.
I didn't want to commit a microaggression.
I mean, I'm just not a big fan of fudge, so
No.
I hear zips.
What? Yeah, I don't know if that was him or not.
Yeah, I think it's our buddy playing on the line.
Well, I don't know what happened to those enemies he marked a long time ago. I hear very distant gunfire to the northwest.
Oh yeah, I hear that too.
Shield battery here.
There's two shield
Well,
batteries here. You
okay.
take that one he pinged, I'll take this other one.
Okay. Okay.
Here's heavy and light ammo.
Ooh, another shield
Spitfire.
battery. Ooh, there's good stuff for days.
Yes.
Stock here.
Oh,
It'd be awesome if they would, like, drop a blue armor on a man or something. I mean, come on.
yeah, drop it right on his head. We just gotta take it. Let's just go take it from. Oh, another shield battery. So I'll drop one of these bad boys for you.
Go for it. No, you go.
Not yet. I'm full. I got three.
You do
take it.
you.
You take it.
Take what you want.
Take it.
All right.
Take it.
Good shit. I got plenty of heals now.
Ammo here.
Flatline here. Optics here. Got a helmet here, amigos. Level 3.
Yeah, you take that.
Hey, mira, we got some enemies right here.
Oh shit.
I'm coming.
Yeah, this dude's zipping to the top of that building. I'm going to the building next to it where our
Okay,
teammates at.
Oh yep, they threw a grenade like right outside there.
Need more kills. What's over
Alright,
here?
I'm going up top in this
I
building.
am on your 6.
Hell yeah.
Charging up my shield.
Oh, grenade on the steps.
I'm with you.
I think they're
Charging up my shield.
on that building's roof.
We're not the first one.
They're shooting through the window now.
Enemy.
For the fuck? Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, we're being scanned by a drone somewhere. Oh, and yeah, they're on that roof too. Shit.
Saw my next hit.
They got us surrounded. They're playing like pros. We need a plan. Our teammates run away.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah, let's do that. Can't hit this bitch. Can't hit what you can't see. Here, I'll throw us a zippity zip zip.
Zippity doo dah. Zippity zip zipperoons.
Yo, I'm not frontal assaulting the dudes that are set up in a fort there. My man, Rivertooth 36JJ. I feel like Rivertooth would not be a name that was taken up where you needed to add 36JJ to it. I mean,
I would think not.
I've never put the words Rivertooth together in my life, I don't think.
Not on purpose, anyway. Damn, are they sniping through?
No.
Where are they shooting from?
Whoa! What?
Oh, from there.
He's shooting through that unreachable
No, they're shooting from the cave to the window.
Oh, dude on the roof with me?
Oh,
He jumped
airstrike.
off. I came so close to him with my bullets and he jumped off in fear. I hear them all around us, but...
Oh, they're on the roof up here. Alright, he just jumped off, airstrike out. Gotta get indoors.
Okay.
He hopped up on that little ass roof up there. Here, we're gonna pop one of these things.
Alright. Hey, that's a good spot for it.
Oh, they're up on that little roof again.
Damn, how do they keep... He jumped
Oh,
off.
when he
and
shot me,
jumped
he didn't take away my shield, it only took away my health.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm
Yeah,
returned to
same
your
thing
totem.
with me.
It worked. It fucking worked. Yeah, we gotta get
Oh
the
my
fuck
god,
out
I'm
of
gonna
here.
die.
Drop
Yeah,
down
I only had
shaft
like
or
one
whatever
health.
you're-
Fuck.
Shit.
Don't worry,
God damn. I can't
But I
get...
love you, babe. I'm stuck on this balcony. Just keep going. I can't get out of here.
I don't know if I can't even make it. I can't even get out of the storm. I'm just trying to make it difficult on them.
Yeah, keep them in the storm long enough that they die too.
Yeah, I at least I downed one of them, I believe. Man, that was a shitty situation, dude. They just wouldn't attack us that whole time, and like, I added somebody on my friends list at some point, and I think he changed his name. I think there was a kid with a really fucked up name already on there. But this kid's name now is Brojaculate.
Over there.
You're in their sights.
Like, that makes me uncomfortable. Brojack, oh my god.
That's a terrible name. Yeah, Monkey changed his name too, and I don't know what he changed it to. It was something like...
Oh, he's like a
Yeah,
random name.
and like I remember I played with him after he changed it, and like I still called him Monkey. He's like, yeah, everybody keeps calling me Monkey still, even though my thing's like Curry or something. And I'm like, well, whatever, I'll call you Curry, whatever you want to be called. I mean, I'll call you that. So then I spent that night or that day or whatever calling him by like whatever his new gamer tag was, and I don't remember.
Hey, you know, life happens. You know.
Like, because it used to be DSYR Monkey, and then his brother was DSYR Phantom. So now it's just like they lost the DSYR, and he's not Monkey anymore. And if he's gonna change it, he should have. Well, I mean, it's not obligated, but he could have put the ZLG on the front of it. I don't know if he felt like that was an option or whatever. Because we didn't really talk about it with anybody. Like me and Zed talked about it a little bit, and I like wanted to do it, and then he decided he was going to change his name, and he did it. And then a couple people asked like, "Oh, like, do we have to do that?" And I'm like, "No, you don't have to do anything. There's no rules here." You know what I mean? And then one person was going to change it because they're like, yeah, you get a free name change or whatever. And I'm like, okay. But like his name was something that wasn't a random name. So like I knew he already used it, but he was saying that it was like he's had that name for like 10 years or something. So like it's time, and they gave him another one. So I'm like, alright, wait, if you want to change it to it, you can. Okay. Again, you don't feel obligated to. And then he went to change his, what, it's $10. And I'm like, yeah, I thought it would be. But you said that you had one.
There's somebody around us somewhere here. They're right below the building, I think.
Round 1.
I think they're in this building.
Countdown.
Go here now.
Yep, this
Okay.
first floor's looted.
I'm with you. Well, let's destroy them.
Found a body shield here. Level 1.
Dude, where are they? They're so close, and I do not. Okay, I don't. These kids are
Teammate
running,
just shot at me.
pissing me
Oh, I see them over there. Oh, and somebody right here.
Someone's out there.
Okay,
Someone's here.
I'm coming.
Why are you not picking up shields, teammate? It was pinged. Oh, now I'm being shot from behind.
Yeah, where did that come from?
Eliminated.
Oh, up here. Broke his shield.
Alright, I'm gonna grab one of those shields that I pinged for teammate that he didn't grab because he's a knucklehead.
Body shield here.
This kid's a caustic, and he is fucked.
My vision is clear.
And there's another one that fucked me up. He just made me a boss. He's going to get his buddy up on the second floor.
Nah,
He's
he left his
vulnerable.
buddy to... He left his buddy to die!
Oh, and another one falls to the Havoc.
The banner is mine.
Oh, the mighty Havoc. I gotta say, for close quarters, that Havoc might be second to like a 99, or third to 99 and 301.
Yo, bud, you're fucking... No, yo, that's our teammate's fucking box, dick.
Yeah, what a
He
bitch.
ran up and, like, stole some shit out of that first box, and then he's, like, looting your fucking box.
I'm gonna see if I can say something.
45 seconds. Rings just
This is a
ahead.
real hit or miss process here. And it doesn't seem to want to bring the keyboard up. Damn this shit. Why won't it bring the keyboard up? It just brings up a box that says say, and then won't do anything.
So I know we took out of your box.
Okay, now I'm pushing
I
every
took
button on my
some-
controller and
some
nothing
stuff
is
so I
happening.
can,
Just want this damn say box to go away. There we go.
10 seconds. Reloading.
Warning. Movement in progress.
That ring's closing in and we're not inside. Hey, if you want
They're after
Yep.
you, bro.
shields.
and I don't have any, like, heals.
I feel like you're going to succeed here. I feel like you're in stealth mode and you're ready to murder kids. And, you know, that's really all you need. Stealth
I'm
mode
not in
murder.
stealth mode, and I don't have the tools for the job. I should leave our fucking teammate.
I recommend it.
He went back to his
What the
that-
fuck just happened? Oh,
Yeah, his thing.
okay, okay. Excellent. Good shit. Good shit.
Yep.
I gotta pee. I'll be right back. Nah, man. You gotta work tomorrow?
Knock the body shield here.
I
Damn
know.
it. Okay, I'll be right back.
Optics here. Mid-range.
Get me an extended sniper mag.
It's my soundtrack. When I draw that, it's my soundtrack. When I draw that. Alright. So for my black and white and a little bit of red, I could use my Grim character that I was designing for the comics, which I don't even have like a title for it. The comics for the comic for the dogs is going to be the Pits, and I was doing it where like they were actual like dogs, but I think I'm going to turn them into like humanoid characters, so they're going to be like, alright, cool, so I'm not talking to myself anymore. I knew you were going, but I was just like kind of talking to give some good content to if anybody's here. But
Yeah,
you know,
is anybody here?
One person, it says. But
Hey,
I
one
don't
person,
know
nice
if
to-
they're here
Nice to spend some
currently,
time
or
with
they
you, bro.
stopped in a minute ago,
or sis.
and it's just catching up. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
who knows?
But yeah, so tomorrow is not the art show I'm gonna hang stuff at or show stuff, but the art show that the one the lady from my work is doing stuff at. She has a couple pictures up, so I'm going to that. Yeah,
At the community college.
and the one I'm gonna hang stuff at is also at the community college, but that's March 30th. But so I'm gonna meet her, like some members of her group tomorrow, I imagine, and then also next Wednesday is going to be like, she's gonna take me as a guest to the club meeting and see how I like it, whatever. And I'm probably gonna join.
Have you already paid?
I'm probably gonna join anyway because it's
okay.
not very expensive, and it's also not a lot of time. So it's whatever, 2 hours once a month, and it's $20 for the year, or maybe it's $20 a month, I forget, but it's not, I think it's $20 for the year. It's not very expensive.
Whoa, $20
Yeah,
a month
that's a bit expensive.
Is a bit expensive.
So I'm pretty sure it's $20 a year.
Yeah, that's very cheap.
Yeah.
By contrast.
But yeah, so and the benefits, just like to be able to hang stuff like anywhere, like the hospitals. It's cool. Oh shit!
Dude's with us.
In a different building, grabbing the gun.
I don't have a gun either. I'm listening to you. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, it'd be cool to hang in a hospital, but like.
Oh god,
shit,
they're in
I'm
here
coming.
too.
Mozambique on fleek. Mozambique on fleek.
Just do what Just take care of yourself. I'm just scrambling to try to find a gun somewhere.
Oh, bro, you know that's not how.
Oh god, I'm getting shot at. I got no gun. Oh, I got 2 health. Oh my god.
I'm coming, bro.
Well, I at least did a little damage to this fucker.
Alright, well.
Don't, you just do you. I'm just letting you know where he's at. I had to run to like 3 buildings to even find a gun, and I had 3 health when I found one, so. Oh, you hit him with that. Oh, good shit. Murder Master.
Oh, this is a new squad?
Oh, Murder Master Mechanic.
What are you doing, teammate? Teammate, like, sniped the dude that I almost downed so he can get the down and the kill. But he's, like, not fucking helping with this. Are you kidding me? Are you... Oh, my God, are you kidding me?
Well, you would... Oh, that motherfucker. Oh, my God.
You're shooting the ground! You're shooting the ground! You didn't interrupt...
Oh, my gosh. Oh, you let us down, kid. Oh. Why don't you just come punch us in the balls personally in our places of residence, you dickhead?
I feel like that's what just happened.
Yeah, I mean, my balls are aching a little bit, just to be honest, and...
Yeah, but honestly, mine might have been aching
But,
before
okay, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, but I mean, hey, we got a victory tonight, and it was like on our 2nd or 3rd game, so we can't forget that. But yeah, you were saying about the we were talking about the membership fees, and
cool to hang at the hospital or whatever, but like, there's other places that I'll be able to hang stuff at because of the club. I don't know all of the places, but there's some shows and stuff that, like, she said you have to be part of, like, a club or organization to be a part of. So I think it's gonna be, I don't know, the first step in the right direction, just to get some stuff out in front of people.
Yeah. Have you got something you want to exhibit already? Or are you working on.
I have a couple ideas. I haven't really done. The only idea I started to draw like a concept for was the Mario. That was for the black and white with a hint of red. It was gonna be, cause he's holding like one of his fireballs, so it was gonna be like the fire is red, and I was gonna try to do some sort of glow so like you can see that his clothes are kind of red. But then it was gonna be like cool. He's white and there's like an outline and whatever, and the rest of it's black. So it's gonna be like was like in darkness, and you can only see him because he's like got his fireball in his hand. Was the idea?
Oh, that's a cool idea to me.
And then I also had a similar idea, like,
I think that sounds really cool.
Because I was having trouble like with his shoes and stuff and his pants. The same basic premise, but like I was thinking like if it was somebody smoking a cigarette, but I don't smoke and it doesn't really appeal to me, but like the cherry of the cigarette is like lighting up some features of their face type of thing.
Yeah, get Dan to record himself on his phone while he's smoking a cigarette in the dark.
Yeah, and
use it as a character study. And yeah, transfer it to Mario. Yo, you know, you could like even scan in your fucking Mario and use your electronic drawing tablet to fucking experiment with shit before you put a mark on your paper.
Yeah, I've done similar stuff where I've like copied it, and I mean like scanned it into my computer and like printed it out and like whatever. Like same like even like some like coloring books, because like I really want to learn how to shade like that guy on YouTube. So like,
oh, that's cool.
Photocopy it.
You scanned it into your computer,
and then I colored like the copy that I made rather than the actual book.
Nice.
Oh, somebody's here all night.
I'm coming. I see him. Shit's going down. That kid's hurt. There's another guy. Yep, there's another guy coming. Okay. Hit him for a bunch. He's down. He's dead. He's about to be executed. Hell yeah. That's how we play it in this hood, mother.
Yeah,
Subject is
buddy. ZLG is riding dirty.
That kill felt real good, Caustic. It felt real good.
Havoc rifle here.
Ooh. That liquor gets you happy drunk real quick, like.
Barrel stabilizer here. Light ammo. Eva shotgun here.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I
you
got a
know-
little carried away.
I thought. Oh no. I was just gonna say I thought that Caustic's voice was a little bit ostentatious, but then they come with the Revenant, and it's like turning it to 11. I mean,
Oh, is it just us?
I'm not gonna thank you.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dick.
Imagine how he sounds when he's orgasming.
Probably sounds, yeah, like a gorilla.
Yeah, exactly. Hey man, now.
Sorry.
Now I'm curious if Jane Goodall ever recorded a gorilla having an
She
orgasm.
must have.
I think that's what the movie Congo was based on, but it's been a long time since I've seen it, so.
Kills. What's over here?
Well, there's your perp
There's a
armor
bunch
bra,
of, like, sniper stuff.
blue light clip.
Light mag here. Level 2.
I got a med kit. Oh no, I had a med kit.
Um,
I'll get a
do
med
you
kit in
have-
the future.
How are you on heals? Do you have heals? Are
Probably.
you good on heals? Heals are okay.
Yeah, no health heals, but I'm not hurt.
Here, I'm dropping this flatline if
Can
you
find
want.
some.
Find ourselves taking fire.
Oh shit, somebody! I'm hurt.
Okay,
I'm
hide,
hurt.
hide.
Ah, I need health heals.
Get
Ah,
hidden,
ah.
get hidden. Here, take some heals. Back here in this corner.
I'm about to kill somebody.
Okay, I'll bring them to you later. Okay.
Where's my pet chimpanzee Bubbles? I hear him.
Oh, and there's the
here
charge
he is.
rifle guy's behind me.
There he is. He's dead.
Subject down.
And there's another one at that door, and I gotta kill them both. We gotta kill them both.
Yeah, I gotta heal up.
Oh, were you wanting to get
Oh
away
no!
without losing
No!
your arm?
No! Kill him! Shoot him! Shoot him! Shoot him! Kill him! Kill them both! Do it! Yes! Yes, Queen! Yes, Queen! No, Queen!
Oh no!
No,
oh, I had to
queen.
reload. Fuck!
It's alright. It's alright, Queen.
Ah, so close. Yeah, you know. I
Damn,
was
look at that
close.
damage. 827.
You know, it was so close. I feel like Caitlyn Jenner. My clit is so hard right now.
So, interesting.
Oh, that was totally fucked up. Hope you don't have too many viewers
mean,
right now, bro.
At this point, I feel
They
like
liked it.
they're-
Don't front. The viewers love that shit.
I mean,
Clits do get hard, so I mean,
yeah,
you did put that adult warning on your
yeah,
channel,
but
didn't
we
you,
all know
bro?
Caitlyn Jenner's clip doesn't work.
It's super
It's
hard.
just hard all the time.
I saw this picture. I don't know if it was shopped or not, but it was like a men's and a women's.
So what?
You know the big head vinyl
Yeah,
shits
the
for
Funko
your
Pops?
wall that they advertised a while back with the sports. No. I know what you. Yeah, I mean the way I described it.
Yes,
sounds
it's
like Funko Pops,
exactly
but-
like Funko Pop.
But this was called Big Head or something, and it was like vinyl things you could put on your wall that were like cutouts of sports
Okay.
figures. Wow, this is
Yes,
incredibly
it is.
annoying. This glitch, I can't even. I'm turning down the game audio. Okay. So like, these were just like vinyl full body figurines of like football players or some shit you can paste on
Okay.
your wall, right? I saw like this picture of a men's and women's restroom, which was a similar thing. It's like full body vinyl printouts that you can paste on, you know, doors or walls or whatever. And the men's room was a picture of Bruce Jenner, and the women's room was a picture of Caitlyn Jenner. And I thought that was creative,
very, very creative.
I just thought it was a creative application, you know. All right, game audio is returning. Oh shit! There's a kid running in this side of the building. I'm trying to get a gun.
Somebody.
I'm not running in there. I'm running over here for what it's worth.
Oh yeah, there's two people. They got fucking L stars.
Oh shit!
One's down.
Still no gun. I'm trying to get a gun. Oh my god, he got that gun too. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Our teammate just is a waste of fucking space.
Oh, yeah, that was... Did I do any damage with the gas? I did 9 damage. I feel vindicated.
Ooga booga.
I'm so nervous about my bottom surgery tomorrow.
Oh no. You're getting butt surgery? Oh no.
Oh no, you gotta look up bottom surgery on Wikipedia, bro. I say bra because, you know, I'm obviously from
yeah, no,
Honolulu.
absolutely. 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 Absolutely.
Whoa. I just see like a quick tip in the loading screen. It says Revenant. Armor is deactivated during death protection. I don't know what that means. If it means you can't rebuild your armor?
I did see that. No, when we were in death protection, when we were on the roof of that one building, when they shot us, it just took away from our health. It didn't touch our armor.
Oh, dude, they've neutered that shit like 3 different ways. That's worthless. I mean, not really, but I mean, it's extremely narrow circumstances where you can use it effectively. But you know, here's a weird thing about it. The one time that I did return to your totem, I did have 1 health, but I had full armor.
Yeah.
So it takes away your armor.
It just makes you,
for the encounter, but then you return with whatever armor you had.
so it just makes your armor. You get hurt like it's the storm. It just hurts your health and leaves your armor intact, which is weird.
That's, man, they neuter that too much. They shouldn't deactivate your armor for sure. So I mean, you get to go in there with 100 health basically, and then you can come back with your armor and 1 health.
I guess it's to keep it so you don't get like 1 shot when you get back to your thing. So if you have like a purple body shield, you get 100 health, you go down, and then you teleport back to your thing, and then you have another 101 health to protect yourself.
Right. But I feel like okay, when I first saw his abilities, I was like, oh man, this guy's OP as hell. But then there's like 3 separate neuterings they put on it. Like there's the time, there's a countdown that's probably like 30 to 45 seconds. There's a distance limit that's, I don't know how far that is, but it's not very far. And then you don't have your armor while you're death protected?
It's very weird.
I mean, that's like why even give him an ultimate? I mean, that's too much.
Yeah,
debuffing.
and I don't know how. I mean, his tactical ability is okay, but like it's not like super great.
Yeah,
I'm not even really using his passive like super well. Where like climbing stuff or like moving faster while crouched. Like it's not something that I naturally do, so I forget about it.
I don't either. And you know, Grim showed us that shit where you can, you know, if you just kind of walk like half full speed or what, if you don't walk quite full speed, you're still pretty quiet. So it's like, you know, is there even much utility? Maybe he's like almost completely silent when he's crouch walking and he's faster.
Right.
You know, I can see how that's useful. But his passive and his left button ability seem more useful to me than the death totem.
Yeah. I would agree, yo. I mean, if
Tune
it's
in
done
for expert analysis of game conditions.
if it's done properly, and you
Yeah, if you really
like
tactful
the
about
people at the end of the last game or whatever, where I downed the guy in the street and he teleported like into a building where he's like far enough away that he has plenty of time to heal. Like that was done well. You know what I mean? Where you were like, what the fuck was that? What just happened? Where did what? Like that was done properly. Not the way I do it.
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Not the way I do it. So,
Well, I mean, you did it the one time it's ever worked for me. You did it on the stairs, and I think that was a good spot.
what do you need? Do you need this or
Uh,
light ammo?
Let me see.
You
Yeah, I
can
can
light
use that.
ammo.
Thanks. I'm good. I'm good. Go ahead. Pick it up. I got several clips of the
Because
line.
right now I'm running with a P2020 with hammer point, so I can spare some.
It's not bad when you get their shields down. I got a sentinel and a 45.
Oh, I don't know. That's kind of you should. If you have a sentinel and a 45, you should take that.
Yeah, I'm taking that 99 instead of that 45. Yeah. Yeah, go for the. I got enough ammo right. Well, I'll take this box. You take that box. How about that?
I'm good. If I got a
Cash.
P2020, I don't need a whole lot of. Although I might switch. There was an alternator there. This never really pays out. I mean, because the P2020 I'm just naturally terrible with.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I got plenty of light ammo. I got 250 ammo, so more than that. So there's a lot if you need it.
Yeah, no, I got 160.
Cash me outside. How about that? That's hilarious that fucking 14-year-old girl and Jerry Springer got a rap music contract out of saying "Cash me outside." How about that?
Yeah, because I
Jerry
mean it was
Springer.
popular enough. It was all over. People. See, and that's the thing. Like I was actually just talking to some dude at work, because we bullshit about like YouTube. Like I want to get better with it, and he wants to like start it, but like he doesn't really know anything about it and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like whatever you wanna, whatever you know, and whatever you would do. Like today, I'm like, if you didn't have to work, if you had all the money you ever needed, what would you do? He's like, oh man, I don't know, it's a tough question. He's like, what would you do? I'm like, I thought I would be a mechanic, but then like when I worked for somebody else, it wasn't fun. So like, I don't know, but storm's coming in. We gotta go.
Oh yeah.
I heard you.
But yeah, whatever you want to do, whatever you're passionate about, that's what you should do on YouTube. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to, you know. And he was talking about like he's like I probably do music. Like he's like I'll make a little bit of music. I probably do that. He's like, but I don't even really want to. I mean, like make music full time. Like he's like I'd want to like start a record label or something and run the business side of it. And I'm like, well, that's so he wants to be like P. Diddy, basically. And I'm like, well, that I mean, that
right.
I mean, can be done. And honestly, I don't think you need a whole lot of money to do that. Like nowadays, you can get enough exposure yourself. Like you used to need a label behind you. Like, I mean, to put a record together and do all that stuff. But like, you can
Right.
go to the studio for whatever it is. I think I saw somewhere it was like $20 an hour plus $20 for every track that they master. So for a couple $100,
Yeah, you can get a decent mic.
yeah, and you can do the shit yourself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Decent mics and programs, whatever. Or if you want to go to, if you didn't even want to mess around with that stuff, you didn't have the time to learn that stuff. If you just, for a couple $100, you could go to a record label, you can go to a studio, record 10 or 15 tracks, and then have them master it. I mean, and you.
Extended heavy mag here.
I mean, for probably less than $300, you could have a decent, put a decent EP together or whatever.
Yeah. Assuming you got some sort of computer. Yeah. I mean, just a mic and some soundproof foam or whatever.
Yeah, and you don't have to be very good. Like, there's a guy on Instagram I follow that's not very good, and all his Instagram posts now are like that he's doing these shows and trying to like get people to buy tickets. So
wow.
I don't know if he's like paying these places to get on like some sort of set schedule, or if
But still, yeah. I mean, like.
But he's living his dream. Yeah,
it's a show,
and it's not good at all. Like it's not. It's terrible music. Like me and Grim used to make music, and if we would have stuck with it, we probably still. If we got back together and we put a couple weeks worth of work into it, we probably could put together better music than he's doing.
1 minute until
yeah.
the ring closes.
Oh, I mean, definitely better music than a lot of the, quote unquote trap artists.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I used to think
seriously, they suck
I used to
dicks.
think like if you weren't like on the
there's anything wrong with that.
If you're not on the top of it and like you're putting videos out and like mainstream knows of you, you're not doing anything. I didn't.
Oh, we're way far away from the circle.
I'm coming back.
Listening. I'm
then
listening.
like I didn't realize like how much money there was to be made by like just doing the shit yourself, and like Spotify plays, or just the music is just to build a following, and then you make all your money from t-shirt sales or whatever. Like there's so many other avenues to go with it that I didn't realize before. I don't know, but anyways, so the point is,
absolutely.
This guy is garbage, and we could be much better if we tried.
Yeah, I agree, and I've told you before, my nephew is, an aspiring rap artist, and he's going to school to be an audio engineer and all this shit. And
we gotta move.
I sometimes write rap lyrics myself, and I feel like at times I come up with pretty good lyrics. I really don't give it enough of my time to refine it. I've never like written a whole song. I mostly come up with a verse or two and try to work on it a few minutes, and then I do something else, and I just haven't really given it the dedication. But at the same time, I feel like some of my stuff is better than what you hear from anyone besides Lil Wayne with Lil in their name.
And that's like
or a lot of people anyway. Oh no, I'm down, but I'm right below. Like, yeah, you do you.
Yeah.
Be careful. Take yourself.
Oh my god.
Oh, there's dudes in the
dude in the tower just took all my health away.
Dude, he's so far away. That's so fucked up. How do I still have all this
I'm coming to you.
health?
Just sit tight.
Oh, I'm down.
Hopefully they don't see. Oh, they see us. You gotta run.
Oh shit. I got full. I'm right with you, and I got full armor. Let's fuck these kids right in their butt.
Why do you have full armor?
Oh, there's anything wrong with that? Oh, now I don't have full armor. I don't know why. I just did for a minute there.
Shields are recharging.
Just use
Thank
me
you,
now.
boxes.
Administering medical aid.
Dude, I don't know why it picked me up with full armor, but it fucking picked me up with full
Yeah.
armor, dude. Maybe it's something to do with
Oh,
Revenant.
somebody's pushing us. Right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, he is hurt.
Like
He's
flying
down.
down.
Another one. Two more. Oh, good shit. Third one is almost dead. Yeah.
45
Oh, swinging
Oh,
past
one more.
Oh shit, another one.
Oh, I'm down. Shit.
18.
Finally, we had time to swap out shields
Our
there.
teammate hadn't been a suck. Dude, you know, I mean, we were knocking kids down with our penis by smacking them in the temple, so I don't
I mean,
know
I
what
have
more we
to
could've
agree
done.
with that. Like, I have to. That was so nice.
Yeah. That was dope sauce. Yeah, but like, yeah, I mean, you know, I gotta be honest, I don't understand how some people get a deal with a label for a single fucking album. I mean, some of these dudes with Lil in their name, like these, you know, quote unquote trap artists, they're fucking, it's mumble rap shit. Some of it, like, if I'm objective and I listen to some of the lyrics, some of it is okay, but some of it is total fucking shit. And I think that the people that they're catering to are fucking morons. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, like George Carlin said, if you think of how smart the average guy is, then you think of that's 50% of people are stupider than they are. You know, 49.9% of people are stupider than they are. Then, you know, that's your audience. And so stupid fucks can appeal to almost half of the people in the world.
Right.
You know.
Well, I think part of it is somebody makes garbage music and for whatever reason it becomes a hit. Well, I mean, clearly people like it because they're bumping it, but like, it becomes a hit. And then the record labels are like,
somebody says this, get it.
and then the record labels are like, oh shit, this is now popular. We don't know why. Even if the record labels are like, this is garbage, what is going on? But it's what the people want to hear. So the record labels go out and they find similar people and they sign them because they don't want to miss the opportunity to make that money.
And that,
Follow me or stay out of my way.
I mean, take advantage of whoever's buying your shit, even if they're fucking
Right.
morons.
I mean, stupid people need music to listen to too.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, probably like over 90% of people have the potential not to be morons, but just due to the circumstances of the world and, you know, people get born to all kinds of people, they're going to turn out to be morons because their parents are morons.
Education. It all comes down to education. People, they just don't know that it's that there's better out there. They're like, I have to just be dumb as shit.
That's right.
And like, yeah, I mean, like, and not necessarily. I'm not. Oh shit, he got the havoc. There's somebody in here.
No, I know what you mean. I think people know what you mean, you know. And that's why you got to enroll into VRI, because they're serious about success. And you know, I mean, there's like a whole squad.
Yeah, there
out
was
here
a
fucking me
fucking.
up.
There was a guy up here.
This is a
shooting
bad
me.
landing.
Did our teammate help me? I don't know. I guess he did because that guy stopped shooting me. Alright, I'm coming. Let me heal up.
I'm proud of you for still being alive right now. Proud of you.
Well, thank you. It makes me happy that someone's proud of me. Alright, I'm coming. I don't have a shield. What? Where is these gas traps are fudging me up? Oh, my bullets are fudging him up.
Oh, what a killer! What a fucking killer! I'm just
That
impressed
was
with
pretty
that
nice.
shit. I mean, you murdered that kid while you were in the
Yeah,
middle
he
of
came running
gas.
up. He's like, "Oh, so all my gas shop's going off. Oh, I'm gonna get him. It's gonna be these gums." Oh. Wait, what happened?
Sorry you ran into the Grim Reaper, kid. Sorry, bro.
I killed him with 14 damage. So, like, congratulations, you played yourself, bro.
That's right. You know, speaking of the Grim Reaper, this is totally tangential to what we were talking about, but like, I saw this YouTube video, and it had a guy with a weed eater and a guy with a scythe, like, in a little, you know, show competition to cut down these, like, tall weeds that were like maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet high or something. And dude, this fucking scythe, the dude with the scythe beat the shit out of the guy with the weed eater, dude. I'm sure you have to have this sharp fucking scythe, and you gotta know how to sharpen a big 2.5 foot long blade. But like, this guy was like slinging this scythe and like cutting down these big swaths of weeds like butter, straight butter. And you know, you probably used a weed eater before. You know how they work, and they're pretty efficient. But the fucking scythe was just like slicing through this shit. It was crazy, dude. I couldn't believe how efficient this old school tool was, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you know how to use it, yeah, man. But
that's my nickname for my weenus is old school tool.
It's, you know, me and my old school tool.
Oh,
none of this motorized, none of this
myself.
motorized shit. It's all runs off of good old fashioned elbow grease and spit and sweat. Sometimes blood.
Indeed. So,
all right, so good game. Let's go over here. This is gonna be the last game. It's almost 1 o'clock. I gotta work at 8.
all right. Oh yeah, dude. Oh, you got an easy day.
8 o'clock.
Yo, what's with all this smog and shit? I've never even noticed these like black clouds and shit in this.
Yeah,
I guess we've never landed here yet. Oh, this is another new. Okay,
the
Fragment West. Okay.
The harvester thing. I don't know the story behind it. I guess that was the satellite thing that we saw in the sky leading into season 4, and that has landed.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Now that it's landed, it's destroying the planet, I guess, or whatever, or just this. I don't know if it's destroying the whole planet or just this area or whatever. But I think that's what's happening.
I didn't even notice that shit. Is this the same trailer where they had the, you know, the Revenant?
This wasn't a trailer. This was, if you looked up during season 3, there was like a blue light in the sky that looked like a star or something. And everybody was talking. People thought it was a satellite, but I guess that was the harvester, the big H building that shoots the laser in the sky. I guess it was that coming in. Well,
wait, season 3 or 4?
Yeah, season 3. Like during season 3, if you looked up, there was like a blue light in the sky. That like.
I gotta look at that again. I didn't remember that. Okay. I may not look at it, but to know about it, I need to look at it again. Oh, never mind. I was going to ask if that was you in the building with me, but I see it.
Oh, I got hammer point and a purple bolt on this Mozambique. Should I do it? I can't run with the Sentinel and that though.
That's an extremely dangerous close quarters weapon. Yeah. I mean, it'd fuck somebody up in a heartbeat, but.
Yeah.
I'd give it a try if I had a decent secondary.
Yeah, I don't know what I can make the other gun. I guess I can make. I'm gonna have to drop the Sentinel though, which I don't know, really.
Oh, what's your
Sentinel,
other gun?
Sentinel in the Mozambique with the. It's the new
What's the
sniper
Sentinel?
rifle.
Oh, the
Yeah.
new sniper. Well, do you want a
Blue
Spitfire
bag
or a
up here.
Hemlock? Oh, well, there's a
There
Hemlock.
you go, blue bag. I'm thinking about picking up this alternator, but well, I'm gonna pick the alternator up. I don't know if I want to drop the Mozambique or the Sentinel.
I've got a Hemlock and a Spitfire. I can give you either one of those if you want them for your secondary, and I got 20 light ammo that I don't even need. But if you want it, you know, whatever you're
Well,
feeling.
right now I'm just I don't know which one to drop for the alternator. I don't know. I guess I'll do the I'll drop the Sentinel because there's Sentinels I pick up. I see them more often than getting both of these attachments on the Mozambique. So I'm keeping the Mozambique. Here I'll drop you.
Well, do you want the
No, I
Spitfire
don't
or the
need either.
Hemlock?
I'll drop my heavy ammo for you. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Body shield here. Level 2.
Oh, level 2 body shield. You gotta get that. Inaudible set. Over
Oh, where's
here.
that shit at?
Over
Oh,
here.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks, inaudible set.
Oh, I hear
I
footsteps.
guess that's a unhearable drum performance. Okay, I'm with you.
I hear somebody zipping.
Oh, okay, let's go fuck him up. With extreme prejudice.
I'm gonna take this energy only because the Havoc has been doing crazy damage lately. I think they're in the building with me.
Heads up. Dropping the bane.
Maybe not.
Okay,
they are.
I'm coming to your building.
Ah! I am getting executed.
Trying to get up there, bro. I'm sorry. I was way too slow.
He melted me like instantaneously from behind. Nice.
Got him.
Nice.
3 health to spare. Shit. Get me up, kid. I've got a gas trap there. Get me up.
It's a caustic. The guy on the step, so he can come through
Oh,
your
damn it.
shite.
I feel like when I'm a caustic, I'm almost always throwing out gas traps to other
Yeah.
caustics. It's unfair. I
It
feel
is very
persecuted,
unfair.
but,
It's some motherfucking bullshit.
Bullshit.
Bullshit, though.
I hope he has some viewers right now because this is
I know.
comedy gold.
I do not. Well, I have the one still, so I don't even know if it's a real viewer or it's just
Oh,
somebody.
awesome. Thank
somebody
you,
lurking.
viewer,
Yeah, I
if you
appreciate
are here,
you.
for your patronage. You're much appreciated.
Super duper appreciate it.
Yo,
Yeah.
by the way, this is just completely incidental. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, really, but I was like looking on YouTube recently, and I don't know if it's one guy or a bunch of guys, but like there are a lot of like episodes and collections of certain comedy skits on Letterman on
Okay.
YouTube, and like some of that shit's pretty funny. Like shit that like was before my time in the 80s, and I mean I was born in 82, but like
You weren't.
you
Yeah,
know
you
when
weren't
you're
old
5
enough
years
to
old, you're
appreciate
not
it.
paying
Yeah.
attention to Letterman. Yeah, and some stuff from the 90s when I was a young kid and I was watching Letterman, but like you know I didn't watch it every night or whatever. And there's a bunch of funny shit on YouTube from back then from Letterman, and I'm sure from like Leno and other late night hosts and shit. And some of that stuff's pretty good. I feel like it's far better. I haven't watched a lot of the modern late night shows. I've just got other entertainment
like Apex
needs that I watch, you know. Yeah, right. Exactly. But like, there was a lot of good shit from back then that I missed, even though I was alive during it, you know. And it's all on YouTube. It's all on YouTube for you to peruse and enjoy at your discretion.
Check that out.
Yeah, you know, if you want to, go for it.
Check it out. Check it out. Yeah, my YouTube.
Hey, will you?
Yeah, I was gonna say my YouTube is currently, where it's mostly art stuff now. It's just like that's now what the YouTube algorithm is like.
Yeah, it's your thing.
It's like, oh, you want to watch this? Okay, we'll just show you like millions and millions of art stuff. So, and it's nice because it's like it's good for all time. So like I can watch it going to bed because they're usually like calm and whatever, or I can watch it when I'm cooking or when I'm masturbating or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. So. Right. Yeah, YouTube. You know, if I was like in an extreme budgetary mode, and I had to cancel Amazon Prime and Netflix and anything that wasn't like a fucking utility, except the internet, I could get by on YouTube content for entertainment.
No, definitely.
You know? I mean, it's got a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. To me, I don't know. Have you ever had like, I don't know. This is a strange question. But have you ever had like a U.S. military meal ready to eat an MRE?
Not a whole one, but I've had pieces
yeah,
of
see,
them.
I did. Yeah, well, when I was a young kid, like one of my friends' uncles or some shit, I don't know if he bought them at military auctions or what, but he would occasionally have access to them, and I had one or two of them from them. And, you know, it's kind of like an interesting experience. It's like a military lunchbox or something. And there's this guy on YouTube called Steve.
You told me about this guy, and he's eating them and eating some bad ones.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Stuff. Yeah, he's very entertaining. I don't fucking know why, but it's very entertaining. Maybe just because I had that experience as a kid of eating an MRE. But like, yeah, he'll eat like old ass food.
A great,
like super old.
example of like he's interested in MREs. I mean, he's probably interested in like other facets of the military and like whatever, but like he's found this eating MREs and talking about them there's enough of an audience that like, yeah, I mean, it's worth it for him to do. I mean, he's probably also would do it just because he enjoys doing it, but like I'm sure he's found enough of an audience that
but he's got an audience.
So like that's the thing, like you can make money doing anything. Like you really can. My dad used to say this, and it wasn't as true then as it is now. I mean, you can make money doing anything. You can get a job doing anything. But like now, like with the internet, you don't have to go get a job. You can create your own job around whatever interests you. It's not going to be as easy as going to get a job, like going out and getting a job, applying. Okay, you got a job, now you know what you got to do, and it's whatever. If you're going to create the job, you got to like do social media, you got to learn that stuff, you got to do all this stuff, and it's tough, and it'll probably be tough for the first 5 or 10 years. But if you figure, I know you're about my age, you're like a year or two older or whatever.
Yeah,
so like
similar. Yeah, pretty close to that. Yeah.
If you worked hard from now until 45, building social media, putting TikTok content out, all this stuff, even if you don't think TikTok's it's going to go anywhere, you put it out on everything. At 45, you might be able to be making a living that, even if it's not great, if it's $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year, but it's around Teletubbies or
it's not bad.
Whatever it is that I mean gets you going. Yeah.
Thank you, Winky.
Yeah, I mean like because like Pokemon cards. Pokemon, I mean, isn't going to go away. Yu-Gi-Oh, which I watched some Pokemon growing up. I collected the cards because they were pretty and whatever, but I never actually like played properly. But like that and Yu-Gi-Oh and like Dungeons and Dragons, not Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, like all that stuff. Like it's stuff that like you'd think would have faded away, but like people are still like hardcore fans of it. So like you can have a show or a podcast or whatever about that and just talk about that stuff, and there's enough people who are interested that will, as long as the content's good, you can build whatever. And there's enough people in the world that you just have to do it long enough, sustain yourself with whatever, and do it long enough until you find an audience, and you can find, and that's like really what is like lit the fire under me for this art thing. Like I've always enjoyed drawing and I enjoy painting, and some of my stuff I really enjoy, like I really like the way it turned out, and even some of the stuff that I don't really like I think is disgusting. Kim thinks it's cool looking, so like even the stuff I think is gross and like I would never like show anybody, there's probably people out there that think it's interesting enough that they would buy it off me. You know what I mean? So like, even if I didn't make my money back on it, but it's something that I like. I have a couple paintings that like really turned out like dog shit. Well, they're not even hanging in my office.
Like alien chest burster
worse.
art.
It's gross. It's like it's terrible. But like Kim thinks it's cool looking, so like it's not even hanging in my house. I could probably, it may take forever, but like if it didn't cost me any money to like put it up somewhere, or like if I had a website where I had a bunch of stuff up there and this was just up there, and I mean, so it's not like it's costing me money specifically for that, it's costing me money for the website and there's other stuff that I'm trying to sell, or I just post it on Craigslist and just keep reposting it until I get $2 for it. Right now it's sitting in a box at my house. You know what I mean? It's not even worth it.
Yo, you gotta message me a picture of one of these shits.
Yeah, I can do that. It's terrible.
Gross me out, bro.
Yeah, let me. I'm gonna bring you with me. BRB chat. I'll see if I can
be on a journey.
be right in the dining room.
Oh shit. I ain't been in a dining room since my grandma's house. Just thought of the dining room of my grandma's house. Thanks, bro. No, I got 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a kitchen, and like a storage room in the basement. It'd be a pathetic dining room. It's more like a storage room. It's more like a closed-in porch that's highly neglected by me. Is it what attracted you to her in the first place? Or is it after that? You said it was something to Kim's, right? But it's not like something you're crazy about, or well, sure. I mean, you know, that's definitely any yard I do, so no judgment. Well, you know, I've seen art exhibited in the bathrooms of a small family restaurant before, so I don't know. Okay, I'm about to look. That's kind of neat though, like a couple of skyscrapers and like the foundation and stuff underneath them. What is like the stuff on the very bottom layer where there's like a I don't know how to. I'm way too drunk right now, Joe. Damn you. Yeah, there's like where there's like a kind of a cellular shits. God damn, I'm way too drunk. Okay, so you got your skyscrapers, and then you got your ground level, and then below the ground level, there's like some diagonal lines, and then below that, there's like a curved band layer, and then below that, there's like these other layers that are kind of like spider webbed or gridded off or something. You know what I'm saying? Like very bottom, the very bottom, the very bottom layer. Like wait. But it's not the top of one of the skyscrapers that are in the top of your painting, right? The bottom of the whole painting is the top 115 floors of that. Right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I got you. A detail shot of the yeah, yeah. I got you. Yeah, and I totally forgot what we were talking about before this, but yeah, I understand that individual piece now. I think I need oxygen. Okay, okay. Now, I've seen the first two seasons of Stranger Things. I haven't seen the third one yet because I was watching the X Files and catching up with that shit. Okay, the underworld. Yeah, whatever his name is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. With the Christmas lights and whatnot. Yeah. the boy needs to grow a set of nuts and, you know, slice the Demogorgon's throat. Stop, bitch. But that's what I took out of it. Oh, okay. I don't think I've gotten to your painting of the mind flayer yet. Are you talking about the one that shows like an above ground forest and then like a below ground forest type? Oh, okay, wait, it hasn't loaded it yet. It's like a fucking frame. Okay, hold on a sec. Okay, I'm confused. Okay. Okay, I see the one with the two pictures of the lighthouse and the above and below ground. I guess that's of him chasing. Okay. And then this next one. Okay, I see the next one. Okay, okay. All right. And then the next one is okay. So what's the next one? I see it's below ground, but are you talking about the ones like 3 layers? Like one is above ground, one is below ground, and then one is like belower ground. Well, and the other painting is like maybe a mountain on the right, and then like a circular thing with an atmosphere or whatever, with another circular thing above it with a line going down. Eh, Okay, look. Okay, the first one I got from you is the skyscrapers with subterranean shit. Second one is the lighthouse, and the one with both the overworld and the underworld. The third one, okay, okay, okay. Oh, okay, okay. Where the where the top is them one kid bicycling through a forest with 3 other kids. Okay. Yeah, so the next one is just a forest with 2 underworlds or whatnot. I'm so confused. Wait a minute. Okay, now you're really confusing me. Okay, let me explain my confusion to you. Okay, we've got the painting where you sent the lighthouse and the forest with the underworld to me. Okay, those are two different. Okay, below that, you've got the forest with the underworld, and then like another underworld or two in it, and then below that, you've got a forest with an underworld that looks kind of like a face, and then another underworld under it. And then below that, wait a minute, hold up. Okay, then below that you got a forest, skull type face, and another underworld. And then below that you've got some stuff, I don't know what it is, and the same underworld and another underworld. Right. And then below that you've got another underworld, a face, and another unknown underworld. Okay, look, the same face is appearing in like
it is.
Two or three different. Yeah,
okay, so what happened was
confused.
I looked at the pictures and I saw what was confusing you. So, and it's because I took a picture of the paintings and they were just like laying on top of each other. So it looked like the painting underneath of the painting I was taking a picture of was part of the top painting, but it's not. It just happened to be laying on another picture. So I took new pictures of these things without the paintings underneath. So if you go to the bottom, let's start at the bottom. So the painting of like the skull. Okay, and it's just it's like an alien head with like speech bubble.
Oh, okay, I see now. It's landing. It's sitting on Voice from Ashley furniture, and harpsichord music from the 1600s.
Yes.
Okay, I
so
got you.
And then the next one up is the Pokemon painting. That's like super terrible. It's the background on my computer, and it's
like the blue, black, purple,
and the
yellow,
thing, the background on my computer, it's like it's all black, and like you can kind of, it's just like with the like wispy white lines that there's kind of an outline of them, and I was not able.
And like
I was not able to do that on.
Okay.
In paint. Then above that is my interpretation of the Mind Flayer from I think it's season 2 of Stranger Things.
Oh, okay, and it's sitting on top
that's
of
like the clouds or whatever.
Okay.
And then the paintings before that are just the same paintings, but they were sitting on top of other paintings that made it confusing.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay.
That's all that was. So they're all garbage paintings that like I would never like. I actually wanted to throw away the Pokemon one, and Kim's like, no, like it looks good. Like we're not throwing away. Yada yada yada, and stuff. So Kim likes it. I think it's disgusting. I don't want to hang it up. But like, so Kim likes it. So there's probably somebody else out there. Not that I would want to sell it, but that might be interested in it and might want to sell it, and whatever.
Which one? Like the skull?
No, the other one, the like blue and black and white one. The Pokemon one. That's the one that.
Yeah, right. With the yellow eyes and the blue lips.
That.
That's
Kim
neat.
likes it. I don't like it.
That's kind of neat.
But
I think that's kind of unique. I kind of like
But like
that.
maybe I can make a better looking picture of it. I don't know. But like so that's my point. That like I think it looks like garbage, and like I don't even want to hang it up in my house. But Kim likes it enough that she won't let me throw it out. So there's the point that I'm trying to make to everybody in the chat and whatever, that you can be bad at whatever it is you're doing. It's better if you're good at it, but as long as you enjoy doing it and you're passionate about it, you can be bad at it and you can still find an audience who's willing to support you with your terrible art or music or singing or dancing,
Yeah.
or whatever. If you put the time and effort, right,
Puppetry.
puppets, whatever it is,
Think of Mr. Rogers. He made
right,
a 30-year
you could be
career
eating
out of
other people's
puppetry. I mean,
toenails, whatever
you know.
your thing is.
And kindness. Did she say eating
Yes.
other people's toenails?
Whatever your thing is, you can find an audience.
There is protein
like
in there, I'm sure.
Dr. Pimple Popper. It's super gross, but people are like addicted to watching it. So like you can find an audience to do
Yeah, dude.
with whatever it is that you do. The only, you just have to put the effort into getting your content, whatever your content is, whether it's paintings or drawings or even graffiti. Like I used to graffiti when I was through like grade school into high school, and then it was like I realized like what vandalism was, and I stopped doing it outside because like one, I was never super good at it. It wasn't really like art. It was just like, yeah. And so and some people, some of it is actually art, like it's actually looks good. Mine never was that good, so I stopped. Then I realized like, right, I knew it was like illegal and it wasn't good. Right, and my penis was never artistic. It was never artistic. It was more like I even tried putting a little hat on it and stuff, and it just never became an artist. But yeah, so it could be anything. And I started doing it like in my notebooks and stuff. Now Tristan just keeps sending me invites. Like, you're in the party with us. I'm done anyway. It's 1 o'clock. Yeah, but yeah. So he's in our like our party lobby, and he's sending me invites to play, and he's like sending me invites to a party. He's not in our like Xbox party. He's in the other. He's in the game party, not the Xbox Live party. Yeah, but so like it could be anything, whatever your thing is. If you put the effort into the social media and find an audience, you can find enough people who care about your garbage content. As long as you enjoy making it, it's like sex. You don't got to be good to enjoy it. You know what I mean? As long as you enjoy it and you can do it regularly, and you make friends. You know what I mean? You find other people who are doing similar stuff and just talk through social media. That's all like networking is. It's just making friends. You make friends, you talk, they realize that you're a cool person and they want to support you just like you support them, and it's back and forth. And then before you know it, you know what I mean? Maybe you get whatever, some company that sends you some pencils or some condoms or some toenail clippers, whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, you get some of that cool stuff. Yeah. Okay, you do that. We can. No, we'll catch up tomorrow. All right. All right. Sounds good. Don't explode all over your living room. Peace out, Cub Scout. See ya. Alright, sorry Tristan. Again, close at the end of the night. I gotta go to bed. I gotta work at 8 a.m. So in 7 hours I gotta be there. But anyway, so like I was saying, you can do whatever it is you want to do. You put the effort and time into finding an audience online. Instagram, if it's visual, like it's art or it's whatever, Instagram's a great place. If it's your thoughts and ideas, you can do like a WordPress site or Tumblr or some Medium, some sort of blog site, and you can generate a following. You get enough eyeballs on whatever you're doing, and people will want to pay to put their products either in your hands to show people on video or in pictures or as banner ads on your blog or whatever. And you can, I mean, make some extra money on the side, or you can turn it into a full-time career. And the point is, even if you don't make as much money doing that as you would working for somebody else, if it makes you happy to do that, losing the money's worth it. I mean, like, losing a couple extra dollars an hour or a couple $1,000s a year, as long as you can still afford to live, your happiness is priceless, honestly. Because you can do something to make an extra 3 or 5 or 6 grand a year, or even 10 grand a year. But if you're miserable doing it, how long are you gonna do it for? You know what I mean? So that's my spiel, and I'm out of here after that. So thank you for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Apologies to Tristan for not being able to play, but time zones and stuff, you get on super late, and I gotta be up super early, so it just doesn't work out. Yeah, so one day when I don't have work super early, maybe we can get together. But yeah, that's it for me. Well, I do appreciate everybody stopping by, whether it was Twitch, Mixer, Facebook, or YouTube. I appreciate the engagement I get on social medias, especially Instagram. That's where I'm most active at. It's Mechanic on all socials, though, except Twitter. It's Mechanic G. Also follow Zero Logic Gaming, Logic with a K, on both Instagram and Facebook. Give the Zeddy on Mixer, Instagram, and maybe Twitch. Give him a follow. He's a good dude, great friend. And also a co-founder of Zero Logic. But anyway, yeah, so I'm out of here. Thank you all for showing up. I really do appreciate it. To those that didn't stop by, go fuck yourself.